Hey gang, Dennis Tubbergen here. It's Thursday, April the 5th, 2018. I'm here with another economic update. And I have on the screen in front of me an article that was published in the Telegraph in the business section titled LIBOR Stress Gauge Hits Post-Lehman High as Fed Drains Liquidity. Now, that's a bit of a convoluted, complicated headline, but let me just give you a bit from the article. It said a key stress gauge of global credit has surged to levels not seen since the financial crisis in 2009, prompting worries that U.S. monetary tightening has begun to bite in earnest. The closely watched LIBOR OIS spread in dollar funding markets has doubled since January to 51.4 basis points, so that's like a 0.5%. Higher than during the Eurozone sovereign debt drama 6 years ago. So what is this LIBOR OIS spread and why should you be concerned about it? Well, to figure out what something means, we'll go to Investopedia. That's where everybody goes when they want to know what something financial means. And they have an article that was published just recently. What is the OIS LIBOR spread and what is it for? Let me just give you a bit from the article, then I'll have some comments for you. A decade ago, most traders didn't pay much attention to the difference between two important interest rates, the LIBOR and the OIS rate. And LIBOR stands for the London Interbank Offered Rate, and OIS is the Overnight Index Swap Rate. That's because until 2008, the gap or spread between the two was non-existent or minimal. But when LIBOR briefly skyrocketed in relation to OIS, the Overnight Index Swap Rate, swap rate, during the financial crisis beginning in 2007, the financial sector took note. Today, the LIBOR OIS spread is considered a key measure of credit risk within the banking sector. So how do they differ? Well, LIBOR is the average interest rate that banks charge each other for short-term unsecured loans. In other words, the best way to give you an analogy for this is hey, I'm out playing golf with one of my buddies and I say, hey, can you loan me $100 till tomorrow? I forgot my wallet. Unsecured, no collateral. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but what do banks charge each other for short-term unsecured loans? Like, hey, just give me this much and I'll give it back to you with a little bit of interest in a little while. The rate for different lending durations from overnight to 1 year are published daily. The interest charges on many mortgages, student loans, credit cards, and other financial products are tied to one of these LIBOR rates. LIBOR is designed to provide banks around the world with an accurate picture of how much it costs to borrow short term. Now, what would it suggest to you if the LIBOR rate went up? If one bank looked at another bank and said, I'm not going to loan you that much money overnight for this much, I'm going to need this much more interest. Why would they do that? And the only reason they would do that is it's because they perceive the credit risk to be higher. Now, OIS, the Overnight Index swap rate, meanwhile, represents a given country's central bank rate over the course of a certain period. So in the U.S., of course, that's the Fed funds rate. That's established by the Federal Reserve. So if you take a look, that's really the declared rate versus the LIBOR rate. Now, in this spread, if you take a look at this spread, there's a chart here, and this shows what this spread looked like at the financial crisis. Notice that there was very little difference. There really wasn't a spread from 2006 going all the way through August of 2007. Then, at the peak of the crisis in late 2008, early 2009, just as banks were failing and stocks were crashing and all these things seemed to happen together, you see that spread got all the way up to 3.5%. Now, if you take a look at where that spread is right now, this article tells you that it's at about 2% on the 6 months. So we're getting back to about where it was. Now, if you take a look at this article published on Zero Hedge, it tells you that there is an analyst at Citigroup who says that this has a lot more to go. In fact, Citi's Matt King said that a dramatic rise in the LIBOR OIS spread is contributing to a general increase in nervousness around risk assets, a process he thinks has further to go. So what does this mean? Well, we've been talking about the fact that debt levels today are higher than they were around the time of the financial crisis. In fact, if you look at all debt that exists, sovereign debt, corporate debt, household debt, I think the number was that around the time of the financial crisis, we were in the $140 trillion range. We're now in the $230 trillion range. It's more than 50% higher. So you might think about it as the same song, different verse, but this time the correction is likely going to be more intense. Why? Debt levels are significantly higher. And we're seeing this rise in the LIBOR OIS spread, which is a really good leading indicator prior to the last financial crisis. So a couple things I'd advise you to do. One, if you have positions in stock and real estate, I would take necessary steps to protect your interests. If you have real estate and you're going to be living in a house for a very long time and it's loan free and clear, maybe you don't worry about it. Certainly stock positions, I'm going to suggest that you have some type of exit strategy or some type of hedging against those stock positions. I talk more about that in today's market update. Also, make sure that if you're dealing with a bank, you know what that bank's safety ratings are. Make sure you're dealing with a bank that has high safety ratings. Weiss Research, in my opinion, is a good place to go and find out what your bank safety ratings are. That's today's economic update. It's Thursday, April 5, and I'm Dennis Tubbergen.